Why am I here? Why was I loaded in? Oh, okay. Now I get it. Well. Fancy meeting you here. But what exactly is all of this? What is this place I hear you questioning? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is what I like to call Trim's digital space. It's what some people would like to classify as a scarcely known thing called a home. And in here, I'm in total control. Rendering error. Well, while I've got you here, allow me to occupy your time by talking about one of my favorite pastimes, analyzing video game characters and lore.
NPCs must lead a pretty exciting life, eh? I mean, it tends to amount to being that one kid at recess who doesn't have much to his name, and when it's time for playground captains to choose teammates, you're all like,
Ooh, pick me, put me in, coach!
Oftentimes, they'll have some quirk, or a crazy kooky story or misadventure to stick out in your mind. Or alternatively, you could have a character introduced, fleshed out, and swiftly shafted all in the same game.
And they said going to your dentist was a stressful experience.
These guys are entities in games and other media that exist only within the confines of that particular source. However, for better or for worse, there are those that
go even further beyond!
And today, I'd like to highlight 3 cases and look into the hypothetical situation of if they stayed as what they started out as. Three guesses as to where I'm going with this.
That's right, the Gearmos!
No, really. If you were to isolate one element from Mario Galaxy to be the poster child of that game, it'd have to be Rosalina. And or Lumas. Oh, now I get this naming scheme. Generally speaking, the consensus surrounding this single mother is very positive. And someone at Nintendo must have taken note, since it seems mandated by law to include her in games that aren't the mainline games at the very least. But hell, even that rule has been bent before. So before I discuss what it would look like if she stayed within the confines of OG Galaxy, why exactly is she so famous within the Mario community? Is it that her design is unique and different from the rest of the cast?
No. From this group shot poster, one can compare and contrast here. As one can see, Peach and Rose seem to have similar features, eh? From the hair flips, the lips, the jewelry, and overall emblem designs and all that there, it's kind of similar. Now, I would say that the onlooker would be able to tell that Rosalina's design is derivative of Peach's, just as Daisy's was off of Peach as well. It is not that different. However, I do like asymmetric designs when pulled off well. So kudos and bonus points to the hair covering the right eye.
Alright, well, was her role in Mario Galaxy amazing and memorable?
Debatable. While she does help out a lot as a guide of sorts and allows Mario the ability to travel to distant galaxies, she doesn't really amount to much other than, well, an NPC. Is someone to talk to. If it were just left up to that, then she'd make for a pretty forgettable character. However, it's the contents of her storybook that tells a different story.
Ah yes, the famous storybook. Most anyone who has played this game knows about this particular element of it. Well, what's so special about this book, you ask? Well, onlooker, it serves as the game's way to enrich its lore and doubles as our very own Space Wizard's backstory. And those are two concepts that make even Boo's quiver in fear. It's presented as a narrative of a girl and a Luma traveling the cosmos to find the Luma's mom. Many details are left up to interpretation, including the girl's identity, which is never explicitly mentioned. The whole story is intentionally vague and leaves the players to fill in the gaps, which, I believe, is what intrigues them about Rosalina. It's as if you have a puzzle where you have just enough pieces to get an idea of what the picture is, yet at the same time not having enough to see that full picture. As such, it captivates your interest and you dig in to try and fill in all those gaps.
Therefore, I think that her inclusion in so many games is thanks to that interest and the familiarity of Galaxy's success and intrigue. So what if that formally stated scenario never happened? well, I think we'd be seeing another case of... What I mean is that we'd be seeing a character with a small but dedicated fan base making tons of demands for her to be put in X game while swearing up and down that she's actually really interesting and not as one note like the rest of them. And I'd probably be one among them.
Alright, now let's discuss... Oh jeez, oh god, oh fuck! Shadow the Hedgehog, what a guy. He certainly made a splash circa 2001. Sonic's rival and arguably the second fan favorite character in the Sonic fanbase. Emerging into the world in Sonic Adventure 2, he's basically the reverse of Sonic in everything except shitting the bed at times. He was meant to, for real this time, only show up in one game and yet he's still kicking. Now the interesting part is that it was actually confirmed by the devs themselves that he was brought back directly because of fan reaction.
Catering to fan demands? The nerve of them.
Okay, so we know for sure the fans brought him back. Therefore, that leads me to ask, why? I mean, nowadays Shadow's seen as an edgelord and people make fun of him or dismiss him for that reason. So what gives? Well, if we take a closer look at his arc in SA2, we can find that it wasn't always, nor possibly meant to be this way. He's portrayed to be a darker mirror to Sonic, absolutely, and in general, well, simply oozes that typical edgelord aura with his more flashy design. But he acts this way mainly because of his traumatic past and his spiteful/vengeful attitude towards the people he feels wronged him, aka humanity as a whole.
Shadow, in essence, needs to get his feelings off his chest and talk. I mean, losing a close friend and feeling lost in general is something that makes people keep to themselves in their grief more often. And at the end of the day, isn't that something that just is a human thing to go through at some point?
Think about it. Shadow's mourning and grieving, with all the stages of emotions that come with that. And isn't that relatable on some level? I know it has been for me, as I'm sure it has been for the tons of fans that brought him back in the first place. In Sonic Adventure 2, he is reserved and pessimistic, bringing on darker themes to the overall story, yes, but not a typical Hedgehog. And so, what would it look like if he stayed dead after SA2? I'm not sure if this can be considered a controversial stance or not, but I think it actually would have benefited him to some degree. You see, I think that if he stayed dead, then all the games that caused him to get this edgy reputation he's known for now would have never happened. In its place, we'd see an environment where he'd be legitimately respected as a diamond in the rough amidst the boatload of mishandled Sonic stories.
Now, personally, I don't mind the quality of the modern day stories as much as some other internet dwellers. But I know that the general consensus is that they aren't very well received. And so, in this hypothetical scenario, we'd get a Shadow who isn't remembered for what he once was, but rather as a character to look to for quality writing.
Ain't that swell?
Well now, Call of Duty. Now this is one divisive series, huh? From my observations, I've gathered that you're either one of two camps. Either
1. You think the series is annual trash that trend hops wildly and represents everything wrong with annualized releases. Or 2. You're an apologist who can find legitimate good points, but is ultimately fighting a losing battle. Kinda like Nintendo with their announcements and Twitter. Now personally, I played all of these, and out of all of them, I only truly despised one, and was massively disappointed in another. So we're batting 4 for 6 here. Not bad, I'd say.
I, like many others, played the hell out of these games as multiplayer modes. I mean, if you were a tween or teen during the late 2000s and early 2010s, owned a PS3 or X360 and didn't play one of these games, can you even say you had an adolescence? However, while these modes took up a bulk of my time, I did dabble into the campaigns first thing out of the box. Scary shit, I know, and I particularly enjoyed the narratives in these two games. And that is not an unpopular opinion. Meet Alex Mason and Frank Woods, kiddos. You can call them the heart of the Black Ops 1 and 2 stories, main characters even. But you may be asking yourself, why are these guys being brought up? Aren't there loads of one-off stories in the COD games?
You are correct, sir!
While true, the Black Ops games are an exception, because if you count all the games that follow through with each other in this timeline, then that's 5 games you get. That's really different from the other games where they were all one-off stories that didn't continue on or had any sequels. Besides, of course, the Modern Warfare trilogy and the 2019 reboot. As such, this is why I'm making a case study out of these two.
It should be noted, however, that Mason and Woods are only truly prominent in Black Ops 1 and 2. 3's campaign scarcely makes references to anything prior, and 4's story is mostly told in the specialist cutscenes. WA is also set before their time, so there's that. But still, these two are highly regarded in the community. So why is that the case? Well, it certainly isn't for any groundbreaking, albeit good writing, that's for sure. Both 1 and 2 have great stories to tell that really shook the campaign formula that COD had, but it's still quite predictable and power fantasies more than anything else. No, I'd argue the point that sells it is how these guys behave and interact with each other. They've got a whole lot of charm, and you can really get the sense of what kinds of people they are as you play the games. They play well off each other, and you can get the sense that they've been through a lot together, which has shaped their friendship. Like, for instance,
Mason. Woods, you look like hammered shit.
Some time for shit in the jungle. It's not, baby.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
What'd you see, Woods?
Sand. Sand and more fucking sand. Hudson's contact's on his way.
You reckon we can trust the Chinese?
We can't hear. They've been supporting the Mujahideen same as us.
No one likes the Russians, huh?
You know me. I don't like anyone. Me and your old man. We're the best.
so by adding in nuance and character beats like this, these guys stick out in the player's mind way more and prevent them from fading into the distant subconscious part of the mind. People know what these guys are about and like how they interact, which likely is the reason why they were brought back in BO2 and included in the specialist backstories in number 4.
So, what would it look like if Black Ops 2 didn't follow through with Black Ops 1's story? Well, it'd look a hell of a lot more like old wasted potential over there. Because if you guessed that Black Ops 3 was the one that massively disappointed me, well then congratulations, because you are right! And your prize is that you get to listen to me vent about it! Okay, long story short. Bought it because of Black Ops 2. Thought it'd be great. I was wrong. Campaign felt empty. I wasn't a fan of the advanced movement in multiplayer, and zombies wholeheartedly turned me off because it was just adventure maps. Only thing I really liked about it was free run because parkour. Essentially, the campaign just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't connected to any of the other games, and as such, it reeked of wasted potential, and I hate that. That's why I think that if Mason and Woods didn't return like they had in Black Ops 2, I guarantee you that the campaign would have faced the exact same criticism as 3's did. Seeing as 2 is my favorite game in the entire COD series, that makes me feel very, very sad feelings inside. Nelly! Now that was a process and a half, eh? Well, I guess that's just the side effect of talking about parallel universes for you. Kind of makes me wonder what the me of a hypothetical other universe would have talked about. Nah, it's not important. Well, anyway, thanks for making the trip. And maybe next time, I'll see you in another loaded video. Later.